Hey guys, happy Monday. It's been a while since I've done one of these, and today I want to dig into Nvidia, the company that is driving the most significant technological shift in our lifetime. Now, this is a stock that I've been cautious on for a while, despite delivering one monster earnings report after another. It just hasn't been able to break above its major resistance trend line, as you can see here. If you look at this monthly chart that I've shared back in November, you can see exactly what I mean. This trend line has capped nearly every rally since 2024, and now with the broader market selling off, is the perfect time to kind of revisit the setup. You guys know how much I love buying dominant businesses at a discount, and Nvidia is starting to look interesting again. And I say that because if you zoom in to its current price action. So this is now on the weekly chart. You can see that it's been stuck between this very narrow channel between 174 and 195. But on Friday, you can see that this channel is starting to crack on the downside, potentially setting up a move towards the next significant pivot here at 140. So 140 here, you can see that if you go back to June 2024, it has capped the rally in the summer and then in late December. And then finally in the summer of last year, we got this big pickup candle right off of this level here, and it's shot back up to resistance, the major resistance trend line here. But for right now, it looks like it might be breaking down, and potentially we might be coming down here. So right now we're watching for this setup. But also, if you look on, if you just throw on some moving averages, you can see that it might be losing this 50, this weekly 50 moving average. And if you just kind of scroll back historically, you can see that once this is the 50 weekly has been a significant support for the stock. You can see that there's a bounce off this moving average here, a bounce off there, and you got some support here. But then when it loses it, it really collapses. So here, back in 2022, it fell all the way down to the major support here, and also the 200 weekly. And then if you just go back here again, you can see that once we lose this 50 weekly moving average, it collapsed all the way down to the 200 weekly moving average. So that's kind of what I'm looking at right here. So it's starting to crack. We're retesting this moving average here, and if it does break, we're gonna probably hit 140 first, and could we possibly go all the way down to the 200 weekly if the war gets bad enough, maybe. There's also a gap here at 118 that can act like a magnet to kind of bring this drawdown a little bit closer to the 200 weekly moving average. And the other reason why I think that we're gonna drop pretty quickly to a 140 is because if you look at the volume profile, you can see that we have a lot of volume up here between 174 and 195. But then there's just this air pocket here until you hit 140. So there's very, very little volume down here. So once this starts to break, we can probably see a really quick decline down to the 140. And once we reach this level, you can see that there's another volume shelf. We probably could find a lot of support here. But there is this gap here that could act like a magnet. And you can see that and this corresponds to another high volume shelf here that might act as another support. And finally, we'll get down here to 92, where you have the 200 weekly moving averages. And then this is also the April lows of last year during Trump's, broad sweeping tariffs here. And you can see some really big pickup candles here. So there's a lot of support down here in this area. Whether or not we'll actually see this drop, nobody knows. But if you kind of just look back in history, during these previous sell-off, the stock will tend to drop all the way down to the 200 weekly. So we can possibly see that again, and it's something that we always want to keep in the back of our mind of how deep these things can get. So there's three major technical supports that I'm watching here, just to reiterate. So the first one here, if we lose this channel and this 50 weekly moving average, we can potentially see this drop down to the 140. And I just love how clean this volume profile is. You can see exactly where the supports are. So, you know, you have 140, you have this gap here around 120, and then finally you have this other, this last volume shelf here at around, let's say 92, where you have the 200 weekly moving average and this previous supports going back to May 2024. So I just want to keep an eye out on that, because I do think that this company is not going to go away, right? So at this, on the same time back in November, I kind of share this pattern here with the stock. You know, it first started back here and 2015, where we had the cryptos going, and then we had the remote rally where everyone was just upgrading the technology, thinking that we're in this new post-pandemic world where everything's going to be online. So we're going to need new laptops, new infrastructure support, working from home. And now we're in the midst of this AI rally, and this pattern's been playing out. So we're on this tail end right here where we have basically flatlined from November since then, and we're starting to taper off. Could we drop here to, I said right here, 92? That's kind of where the 200 weekly moving average is. So, can the stock drop down here before we investors come in and pick it up and set this up for the next rally? Is this going to be the humanoid rally? Like, who knows? Robots seems to be the most obvious catalyst for this, but whatever this next rally is, I think Nvidia is probably going to lead it. So I think this is a setup that we should all be watching for if we want to not miss the boat on the next big rally coming from Nvidia. So that is what I wanted to just quickly talk about today. So this is what I'm watching really closely. The last thing that I want to quickly mention is this fast graph here, where we look at the fundamentals of the company. You can see here we're looking at some historical data, looking at the last 14 years, with the stock price, how it correlates with its earnings. And what you can really quickly see is that here you can see that the stock tends to dip to this black line here, and that is where investors have historically liked to pick up the stock. So this is back in 2017. It's touched this black line before investors picked it up and pushed it all the way up to the orange line here, and this is leading to the pandemic. Here is dipped below, but during the pandemic itself, it touched this black line. Investors came in and pushed it back up. Here again, 2022, you can see the pickup right off the black line. Again, April lows here, and right now we're back to this black line again. So on a historical basis, it looks like the valuation is very attractive, around 30x, and this is where it seems that investors have loved to pick up the stock. So even before we get further declines to all the other technical supports that I'm talking about, even the stock as it is today, it looks reasonably attractive if you just look at a PE basis. So if we do see a decline, start seeing a decline to 140 and below, I think there's a very compelling reason to be looking at this ticker again,